The following audio is a live community broadcast from Henley Library. We do not own the rights to the materials read today, no copyright infringement is intended, and all works are used for non-commercial, educational purposes. To protect our participants' privacy, only first names are used. This broadcast is for community enjoyment and may not be redistributed.
Kids Wave Radio, let your mind be free. Explore, learn and share in harmony. Email us your thoughts, join the band. Kids Wave Radio at protonmail.com, take a stand.
Good afternoon, you're listening to me, Shiloh Macmillan, live from Henley Community Library, and today we're doing a live storytelling session, and we have some wonderful participants here, and we're going to be starting off with the story of Dr. Dolittle. So as you can see on the cover, we've got the man, we've got all his animal friends, we've got his parrot, his dog, his pig, his monkey, and some seagulls in the background. Has anyone ever read this story before at all? No, nobody's read it before. So let's start with chapter 1. So, as we can see, chapter 1, Puddleby. Once upon a time, many years ago, when our grandfathers were little children, there was a doctor, and his name was Dolittle, John Dolittle, M.D. M.D. means that he was a proper doctor and knew a whole lot. He lived in a little town called Puddleby on the Marsh. All the folks, young and old, knew him well by sight, and whenever he walked down the street in his high hat, everyone would say, "There goes the doctor, he's a very clever man." And the dogs and the children would all run up and follow behind him. And even the crows that lived in the church tower would caw and nod their heads. The house he lived in on the edge of town was quite small, but his garden was very large and had a wide lawn and stone seats and weeping willows hanging over. His sister, Sarah Dolittle, was housekeeper for him, but the doctor looked after the garden himself. He was very fond of animals and kept many kinds of pets. As we can see, there's the doctor's house in the photo, and there's his wonderful garden. Besides the goldfish in the pond, at the bottom of his garden, he had rabbits in the pantry, white mice in his piano, a squirrel in the linen closet, and a hedgehog in the cellar. He had a cow with a calf too, and an old lame horse, 25 years of age, and chickens and pigeons and 2 lambs and many other animals. But his favourite pets were Dab Dab the duck, as you can see over here, Jip the dog, he's over here, Gub Gub the baby pig, and Polynesia the parrot, which is over here, and the owl Tutu. His sister used to grumble about all these animals and said they made the house untidy. And one day, when an old lady with rheumatism came to see the doctor, she sat on the hedgehog, who was sleeping on the sofa, and never came to see him any more, but drove every Saturday all the way to Oxenthorpe, another town 10 miles off, to see a different doctor. Then his sister, Sarah Dolittle, came to him and said, "John, how can you expect sick people to come to you and see you when you keep all these animals in the house? It's a fine doctor would have his parlours full of hedgehogs and mice. That's the 4th person these animals have driven away. Squire Jenkins and the parson said they wouldn't come near your house again, no matter how ill they are. We're getting poorer every day. If you go on like this, none of the best people will have you for a doctor." What do you think Dr. Dolittle's now going to say? Do you think he will stop having animals? Will he go back to being a people's doctor?
No.
You don't think so? Well, let's find out. "You are ridiculous," said his sister, and walked out of the room. So as time went on, the doctor got more and more animals, and the people who came to see him got less and less, till at last he had no one left except the cat's meat man, who didn't mind any kind of animals. But the cat's meat man wasn't very rich, and he only got sick once a year, at Christmas time, when he used to give the doctor 6pence for a bottle of medicine. 6pence a year wasn't enough to live on, even in those days long ago, and if the doctor hadn't had some money saved up in his money box, no one knows what would have happened, and he kept on getting still more pets, and of course it cost a lot to feed them. And the money he had saved up grew littler and littler. Then he sold his piano and let the mice live in the bureau drawer. But the money he got for that soon began to go, so he sold the brown suit he wore on Sundays and went on becoming poorer and poorer. And now, when he walked down the street in his high hat, people would say to one another, "There goes John Dolittle, MD. There was a time when he was the best-known doctor in the West Country. Look at him now. He hasn't any money, and his stockings are full of holes." But the dogs and the cats and the children still ran up and followed him through the town, the same as they had done when he was rich. So that was chapter 1 of The Adventures of Dr. Dolittle, and we got to meet him there. We got to learn more about his life and his characters. So now, I'm going to give you some paper and some pens, and you can write your own stories and maybe even continue what you think will happen, or you could draw pictures and then explain the story. So I'm going to hand out some sheets of paper. So here you go. And we're going to take some pencils. I think we've got one here, and we've got some down here as well. So here you go. There we go. And then you can let me know what you've written or drawn, and it'd be wonderful to see all your amazing creativity. So I'll just give you some inspiration. So I'm going to take out a few books just to show you what kind of things you could write about or draw if you haven't got any ideas. So we have The Adventures of Peter Cottontail by Thornton W. Burgess. Do any of you know about Peter Rabbit? Yeah, Peter Rabbit. This is kind of an older version of Peter Rabbit. So this is Peter Cottontail, and he is often referred to as Peter Rabbit. So it's a kind of early edition before Beatrix Potter's Peter Rabbit. And there are loads of beautiful illustrations, so I'll open it onto one of them now, so you can have a look and get some inspiration. And we'll be checking back with you live on Zeno in just a moment.
Good afternoon. We are broadcasting live from Henley Library, and you are listening to Kids Wave Radio with your host, Shiloh Macmillan. If you were just checking in a moment ago, you would know that our wonderful participants here were just creating their own stories, and one of them has finished. Would you like to explain to me what you have drawn?
A unicorn with a unicorn next to it.
Wow, and you think that could be one of Dr. Dolittle's pets? Do you think, I think he would have loads of different mythical creatures, dragons, unicorns. He's such a wonderful man with all sorts of pets and animals. And it's a very beautiful drawing, and I really like it. It's very creative. Well done. And that's a wonderful drawing of a unicorn. What's your favourite animal?
A unicorn.
A unicorn, that makes sense. And it looks very nice. If you could have one animal for a pet, would it be a unicorn? Yeah. I think it'd be lovely to just go and ride a unicorn out into the fields and ride to places instead of going in the car. You could ride your very own unicorn.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, and that's a brilliant drawing. Well done. So our next participant has now finished, and they're going to tell us about. What their story is about.
There's a little village on top of a hill, and a gnome lived there with a pet dog, and they went out adventuring into the forest nearly every day. One day they found a chest, and it was full of treasure, and they lived happily ever after.
Wow, it's a brilliant story. Congratulations, that's wonderful. Can we have a round of applause? That's brilliant. It's very creative as well, and I love your drawing as well, especially of the gnome and his dog. Well done. Congratulations. It's wonderful. And that concludes our storytelling session. I hope you enjoyed the story of Dr. Dolittle, and all of your creations were fantastic. So thank you very much for coming.
Say thank you. Thank you. Is it Shiloh?
Shiloh.
Shiloh. Okay, thank you, Shiloh.
Thank you very much for attending this session.
Kids Wave Radio, let your thoughts run free. Listen, learn and share. Just be what you can be. Find us on Spotify anytime you go. Kids Wave Radio, let it flow.
You are listening to The Crazy Fruit Bunch, The Portal Traveller, written and narrated by Shiloh Macmillan.
Chapter 1. Trouble at the Lab. It was a sunny day at the Date headquarters. Dr. Date, whose acquaintance some of you have previously met, the head of exploration of science and the CEO of the science project, was busy mixing plutonium and trying, without much success, to tutor his friend Silly Strawberry about chemistry. Beakers bubbled gently, machines hummed, and tiny lights blinked across the panels. So, if you mix plutonium and gadolinium together, you get portalium, which is used in all of Fruity Land's devices for the quantum plantain chip, Dr. Date explained. Just then, the rest of the bunch burst in, full of energy. They consisted of gallivanting grape, tall tomato, and perfect pineapple. Wow, look at all these gadgets, exclaimed gallivanting grape, almost knocking over a stack of delicate glass tubes. Good afternoon, smart strawberry, said perfect pineapple politely. Silly Strawberry gave him a puzzled look, not sure whether perfect pineapple was suffering from a case of memory loss or was just having a silly moment, which was, after all, his role, silly by name and silly by nature. Look, said Silly Strawberry, gripping a test tube. I'm about to find out what happens if you mix plutonium and cesium. No, don't do it, cried Tall Tomato, lurching forward. That could create a huge, enormous X. Kaboom! The test tube shattered into 1,000,000 pieces. The lab rocked back and forth under the shock, and a ventilator began to whir noisily overhead. For a moment, the room was filled with coughing and the smell of burnt metal. Then finally, Dr. Date spoke up. Is anybody hurt? Not a bit, came the response as the cloud of yellowish smoke was slowly rolling away. Well, we've made another failure of it, but I believe that will be the last mistake. I see what the problem is now, unless the lab has a chemical isolator and is built to withstand major shocks, he said with relief. Chapter 2. Tall Tomato's Letter. Just then, a new resident of the bunch, Banker Berry, walked in. He was quite wealthy, having amassed a considerable fortune from several business ventures. In his lovely, warm Scottish accent, he said, Hello, friends. It's been ages since I saw you. How's Fruitiland? Well, hello there, Berry, Silly Strawberry exclaimed. Fruitiland is doing well. We've had a new few additions, like the supermarket and Fruitston, the new ultra-modern transport hub. How is the industry? Banking in Berryborough is doing very well at the moment. So well, in fact, that I am now a millionaire. Tall Tomato, who had left the room for a moment, now returned with a handwritten letter in one hand. He held the other up for silence. Everyone, listen to this, said he. I've received a letter from my cousin, Thoughtful Tomato, inviting me to his vegetation patch in Human Land for his birthday party. Being thoughtful by name and thoughtful by nature, he's asked me to bring some friends, and he will pay for all of our flights. What do you think of that? After his speech, there was silence, and then cheers erupted from our fruity friend as they commended Tomato's cousin for his generous gesture. Hooray! A trip to Human Land for free! Yelled Perfect Pineapple excitedly. I wonder how much it would cost to get a flight for 6, said Gallivanting Grape, pondering aloud. Bankerberry scribbled on a piece of paper. His eyes widened. According to my calculations, it'll cost exactly 33,333 seeds each, he gasped in astonishment. Now, young listener, you are most likely wondering why are plane tickets so expensive for Human Land? The reason lies in the dangers of flying through the insect-filled airspace. A highly trained pilot must always be present, but because the risk of a mid-air insect collision is so high, only one pilot dares to fly there. Naturally, he must be paid more than the other. Actually, Tomato, write to your cousin for his kind offer, but inform him we will be travelling without any planes or security checks. If I can get my experiment right, we will get there via portal, said Dr. Date confidently. He swept aside some loose wires and opened a tall cabinet lined with glowing jars, as you can see here in the photo. One by one, he selected 4 ingredients and began mixing a curious combination. A pinch of shimmering plutonium, a few drops of thick silvery polonium, a scoop of powdery chiconiate, and a swirling vial of plutoniacin, which seemed to hum quietly. He poured them carefully into a glass beaker. The mixture fizzed and turned a soft violet. Then, with great care, he poured it into a metal machine marked Portal Traveller version 7892. He wiped his hands on his lab coat, punched the exact coordinates of Thoughtful Tomato's vegetation patch into the flickering screen, and turned it on. With a fizzing of electricity and the steady hum of motion rays, a shimmering, glowing blue circle appeared in front of the bunch. It hovered just above the ground, casting flickers of light across the laboratory walls. When you enter, the time boundaries create a plasmatorical field of light around your body, so be careful not to leave even a toe outside of it, warned Dr. Date. They stepped hesitantly through. One by one, they vanished into the glow. Dr. Date followed last, gripping a remote control in one hand and a bottle of chemicals in the other. So that was chapter 1 and 2 of the Crazy Fruit Bunch, The Portal Traveller. So there are also other books in this series. You have The Crazy Fruit Bunch, The Underwater Catastrophe, and then the second one is The Portal Traveller, and then we have Meet the Characters, and a brand new one that's just come out a couple of weeks ago, The Starfruit Mission. And these are my books I've written. And so,
What inspired you to write?
I don't know. I just wanted to get. Originally it started as a comic series, really, and mainly I got it for my friends, just to, at school, just to draw them. And then I decided, because I have a radio show on. Aside from this, I have a radio show on my local community radio station. I thought, why not turn it into audiobooks? So I turned them into audiobooks. I just recorded them. And then I thought I have a way of making money with it, so I had I don't know if you heard of Audible. Yeah. So I tried to put it on Audible, but it said you need a book first on Amazon. So I created one book just to publish one audiobook, and then I thought it would be a good idea to create many different books. And so, like, you can just find them on Amazon. You can just search in The Crazy Fruit Bunch or even my name, and it should come up. So they've got Kindle editions, we've got audio editions, and we have physical copies. And we're working on a hardback cover, which combines all of these together, all 4 books together into one.
Right, yeah. Are they also illustrated by you?
My brother did the graphic design. He's a graphic designer, so he kind of compiled them all together. It's a good hobby, actually, because I'm brought up in a screen-free environment, so I only use screens for things like this and my radio, but I don't like game or watch or have a TV or anything like that. So that's what I do in my spare time.
Yeah. How come they're so like science based?
Yeah, they're kind of science based. Mainly they kind of follow a pattern. So the character Dr. Date, he starts by creating something, and then sometimes that thing goes wrong. So especially in the Underwater Catastrophe, they're kind of science based to a certain level. And then we're working on a jungle mission. Actually, at the moment, I'm working on a jungle mission book for book 5. But thank you for listening to our storytelling session here.